Your next speaker, and I say your next speaker because I'm coming back again afterwards as well, and I'm going to give you a practical session on your elevator pitch. Jack set that up really, really nicely. Your next speaker has, as I mentioned, over 30 years experience in the financial and strategic space. She is passionate, super passionate, having spent some time with her, about supporting Australian businesses to succeed both domestically and internationally. Anna has worked with over 280 Australian and New Zealand companies, and she's collaborated on multiple occasions with Dr. Glen Richards, who you heard from earlier, and also Vern Harnish that Glen mentioned, and they co-presented together at the Australian Scaling Up Summits and Masterclasses. She is the only female, and this makes me really proud to say because we've got her on our bill, she's the only female certified Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up coach in Australasia. And in 2018, Anna was awarded the prestigious Best New International Scaling Up Coach of the Year award at the Scaling Up Coaches Summit. She has run her own business with her husband, Peter, for over 25 years, a proud mum of 3 gorgeous kids, and ever hopeful that the mighty Blues will once again beat the Maroons. I'm not backing you there. Anna, welcome to the Zoom room. How are you?
Hello. Really well, thank you. Great to be here. Congratulations on a fantastic event. Very excited. I beamed in for Andrew's bit, and there's just nuggets of golden information for everyone there. So,
Anna, that's what I love about you, right? I came out there on that break, and then the team just said to me, Anna's been in for ages. She was in for pretty much the whole of Andrew. I love your always a student mindset. You're always looking to learn some more. So hopefully that's the first lesson that everybody can get from you. So I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be a student. Enjoy.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. We're at the end of the day, so I know you've had a really big day. But let's start the presentation now. I've been asked to present to you guys about Cash is King, but first I wanted to give you a little bit of reference of who I am and what planet I've come from. I'll make it quick. I'm from a big fat Greek family. I'm an only child, but my mum had 3 sisters who migrated here to Australia in the 60s, and I might be an only child, but reality is, hey, we're a big fat Greek family. I think interestingly, being an only child from a big fat Greek family, I was actually offered to have a scholarship in acting when I finished my year 12, and running away to the circus was not an option for the firstborn of this migrant family. So I did the next most creative thing, and I worked in stockbroking. And I worked in stockbroking for 3 years whilst I worked through university, and I did an economics finance degree. Then went on and, worked with AMP Investments, where we had 45 billion funds under management at that stage. And I was very much in that corporate governance strategy piece. So I cut my teeth on strategy and also performance management. And of course, as you do when you're 25 and you're being paid a ridiculous amount of money in these large corporates, you have an entrepreneurial seizure. And I went and set up my own company with my husband, Peter. So we started a chartered accounting firm, and the first 3 years were really hard. Like, you think you're working hard and therefore you shall make money. It is not true. It's all about working on the right stuff to make money. So we learned that the hard way. And I guess the curiosity for me really started there. I mean, I'm 3rd generation entrepreneurial families. Both my grandparents on my maternal side and my father are entrepreneurial. And it came to my point where, I was the 3rd generation of entrepreneurs going into setting up businesses. And I just thought that there has to be a better way than just killing yourself for 3 years and not having much profit to show for it. So that kind of started my curiosity journey of always learning to, who's done this better? I mean, running a business isn't rocket science. Somebody's done it before us. And it's all about, scouring the planet for the best information we can that we can adopt and implement to give ourselves the best chance of success. So fast forward probably a few years after that, I went to Financial Management Research Centre at the University of New England, and I met up with this gentleman here called Andrew Geddes. And Andrew Geddes ended up also working with this vet from Townsville called Glen Richards, and Glen and I have had the same mentor for the last 20 odd years. Andrew sat as the chairman of Green Cross whilst Glen scaled. And Glen and I have both been blessed by this lovely gentleman who's guided us all these years. in our businesses. When my youngest, Nicholas, who went into year 5, business was good by that stage. Things were cruising. Things were good. Like good mentors or coaches do, they kind of push you to the next level and they say, what are you up to, lass? I said, oh, I'm really, really good, thanks. Life's good. He goes, great, get on with it. And he hung up the phone. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Long story short, I ended up going over to the US because I could not find anything in Australia when it came to running a business at the time that I found groundbreaking, that I was going to find really interesting, that would help me. And then I've, trained up in the Scaling Up Rockefeller Habits methodology that Glen and I have been implementing for many, many years, and the rest is history. In February, pre-COVID, in the olden days, Glen and I, together with Vern Harnish, who's on the right, and also Naomi, who's also adopted this framework, the Rockefeller Habits framework, we ran a summit in Sydney where we had 300 Australian businesses come together and talk about how they use this framework and what they do to actually help their companies scale. Now I'm talking some of these companies ridiculously scale. And using the framework, it all comes to, you can come up with a great idea, you can have great vision and great passion, but unless you're very, very disciplined and focused, nothing's going to happen. And of course, Glen is an exponent of the process, and so is Atlassian. Atlassian actually adopted this when they were about 53 employees. And it's all about, it's discipline and focus. Once you know what you've got to get done, it's discipline and focus. In the olden days, when we can get on a plane, about 1,200 of us used to get together twice a year, CEOs from all around the world, and specifically I work with mid-tier companies, so small companies to mid-sized companies who want to scale. And we'd get together and we'd talk about what's working, what's not working, what lessons people have learned, and then go back to Australia and start implementing. I do miss my people there. Typical kind of results we get, or I get us around that mark. And then these are the type of companies that I work with. So I work with SMEs all the way through to, I've got somebody at 1.1 billion now at scaling. This one's the most interesting one. I did the stats on them. I worked with them 4 years ago. They've done 1,062% growth so scaling at, at the next level. And the way we work together is through CEO programs. I also do a lot of virtual work and a lot of in-house stuff. So I don't know if you guys are aware of the Icebergs restaurant, but that's the Icebergs team. We actually have 10 venues in 2 countries, and we get together twice or once a year to do our annual planning, and then 4 times for our quarterly. So there's a process. This isn't willy-nilly. It isn't by accident. It's not just pot luck. Anybody who tells you you're lucky, they've got another thing coming. There's a lot of hard work. There's discipline and focus, and making sure that you pick the right priorities and focus on that. So there's a 15-step process, and the process works. So I want you to trust the process, be fearless, be brave, be bold, and love yourself. Be kind to, honor the truth that you've been put on this planet to do, and for what you're here to achieve. And know that this framework, I actually adopted it quite cynically in a way to kind of road test it, to break the system, being the Aussie cynics that we are, being skeptics. It hasn't failed me yet. So let the games begin. Grab your pens. We're going to go really, really fast. That was a really, really fast thing, but there's a lot I want to cover with you, because as Ryan said, I'm really, really passionate about sharing all this knowledge that I have with Australian entrepreneurs, so we can get you guys, really pumping really fast and achieving what you want to achieve efficiently. So there are 4 barriers to growth. The first barrier to growth is the lack of leadership development. Australian companies have an inability to grow leaders within the company who have the capability to predict and delegate. Notice I'm not talking about managers. Managers are all about the internal focus and, looking after business as usual. I'm specifically talking about leadership development, identifying the opportunities in the marketplace, and then choosing which path we're going to take our team on and follow that path. So leadership development is paramount when it comes to all the training and the type of education you're getting to start honing, sharpen your knife, sharpen your saw. I can't remember what the wording is there, the phrase is there, but it's all about being the best you can be for when that opportunity comes your way and then hitting it. Okay. The second barrier to growth is scalable infrastructure. And it's a lack of systems and structure, which is exactly what Andrew was talking about. Somebody had that question about how do we make a service firm sexy? And Andrew said it, it's all about systems and processes. And once you've figured out what that system and process is that actually works, that then makes it sexy instead of being just willy-nilly ad hoc. So with the scalable infrastructures, we're also looking at handle the complexities in communication and decision making. And I'm actually going to go through that in a minute. But it's all about having these robust, informed conversations, respectful conversations that the team needs to have so that we can just decide and then move on. The third barrier to growth is effective marketing. And it's really a failure to scale up an effective marketing function. And people tend to think that marketing is only for bringing in customers. I have to tell you, it's all about bringing in the right team members as well and the right stakeholders. It's a team effort to scale a company, especially at the rapid growth that you guys want to go at. So it's all about making sure that we're attracting and keeping the right kind of people, all the kind of people who come into contact. So they're the first three. Guess what the fourth is? Cash. Cash, cash, cash. Cash is the fourth barrier to growth. You can, cash really is the only number that won't lie. I mean, I did 25 years in an accounting firm. I'm not an accountant, but I ran an accounting firm. I have to tell you, I can't tell you how many times I heard people saying, but my profit and loss says this, I've got that much tax to pay, but I've got no cash in the bank. Cash is the only number that will never lie. It will tell you very, very clearly if your business model's right, if your value proposition's right, if your sales function is efficient. And this is where the kicker is here. So let's go a bit deeper into these four decisions, into these four barriers that I was talking about, because they all impact on cash. So there are four decisions we need to make in growing your business that you've got to get right. Otherwise, you're going to risk leaving revenues, significant revenues sometimes, profits and time on the table. So the first decision we've got to make is, we really ask ourselves the question, is our team happy and engaged? And would we rehire them? Have we got the right people around us? If you don't have the right people around you, there's what we refer to as a trust tax, and it slows down processes and it burns cash. You really need to have all the right people around you. The second one is strategy, and strategy is all about strong top-line revenue growth of the right margin. Okay, it's all about sustaining and maintaining your margins. So if you guys can have a look at me whilst I show this, so quite often we've got companies that are rapidly growing, so revenue's going helter-skelter, revenue's really going like this, but profitability is doing that. So when we're talking about strategy, we're talking about strategy of strong top-line revenue growth of the right gross margin. If you're going to discounting, you go into that. People discount because they have a really horrible value proposition, or it's a confidence issue. And this is where Ryan's training is really critical. That's why I'm so passionate about supporting this. You really need to be very confident and clear on what your value proposition is. So once we've got strong top-line revenue growth of the right gross margin, how we execute it is what's going to bring us our profitability. So we're hoping that profitability and revenue will track, and at the end of the day, we'll have cash. But what I see is revenue going like this. People are saying, oh, sales are skyrocketing, Anna, but we have sloppy execution and there's nothing to show for it. This goes back to the processes and systems that Andrew was talking about. Okay, so if you have strong top-line revenue growth and great execution, so including a great sales system, you should get enough profit and enough uplift that you can internally fund your growth. Make sense? So we've got profit, and then at the end of the day, we have cash. Let's go a little bit deeper again into these concepts. So when we're looking at for companies to really succeed, when we're looking at the people decision, we're looking at to building a diverse team of A players. And I noticed one of the questions was about the old and young employees. There's an MI, it's a fantastic question. It really is a fantastic question. If you want to do something, print off the Netflix, the video with Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro, the intern. Those relationships are fantastic. There's an MIT study that came out that when we're looking at diversity, we know that, we're looking at, diverse teams. You look at male, female, different backgrounds, different skill sets, EQ, IQ, all the rest of it. We knew when we looked at all the different types of diversities, the age, having the young and old working together was exponentially more impactful. So what we refer to in the performance of that company. So what we refer to is that if we can get the grey silver hair, silver foxes coming along, meeting the digital wise eyes, we have a great team working together. And I really implore you guys, if you've got people who have been in the industry and somehow are feeling that because they can't keep up with the technology, it's that they feel like they're out of their field, I have to tell you, that's a game-changing move. Because if you match them up with the millennials, and we know the millennials want to be mentored, match these guys up, you have a powerhouse. Very similar to the Sharks mentoring Ryan, okay? Very similar dynamics. We have a winning team there, winning combination. The second thing is we need a clear, to create an ambitious line of sight into the future, a consistent heartbeat, and also cash. We need cash. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper on this. So this is the bit that I was talking about with a diverse team of A players. You need diversity, IQ, SQ, age. Okay, I'm going to repeat the bit on age. Then we need an ambitious line of sight, and this is where strategy comes into it, where our teams really need to know where the business is going, how we're going to grow it, and they want to know that you're on an ambitious trajectory path. With strategy, you start with the end in mind. So you go into what we refer to as that Southern Cross, and then you start reverse engineering where you're going. I am not a big fan of spending days and months and years or offsites on these sections here. Basically, figure out where you want the business to go, and then figure out what you've got to do in the next 90 days, and then get it done. Make sense? And then the third bit here is all about communication. Remember how I was talking about execution and communication and decision-making processes. How am I going for time? Okay. There are 11,000 startups around the world every hour. Humans don't find it hard to come up with a great business idea. What they do find very difficult is to scale these companies up. This is US data, but I'll share with you the Australian data in a minute. So typically what happens is a company goes into startup and they hit this $1 million turnover, which is 96% of all the companies in the US. And then they go through what they refer to as the valley of death. They find it very, very hard to jump from here up to here. And then we've got anyone over greater than $1 million, but less than 10 million kind of sits in here. Only about 0.4% of the US companies actually get to over 10 million in revenue. People seem to think this, the bit that gets them into the valley of death is the revenue. It's not. The number that's missing from this table is the head count. It's how many brains we have to manage as we're scaling a company. So here we've got a tipping point of about the 5 head count. Here we go to about that 15, 20 head count, and then the organizational design has to change. As you scale, you have to change because you're having to have lots of different conversations. And here we've got the 50. No, for Australian companies, 2% of Australian companies will get more than 2 million in turnover. Okay. So typically what happens when you start off in your business on your own, there's about 5 of you, you're all singing from the same hymn sheet. It's really, really easy. Everybody knows what you're up to. You all saw each other. as you're scaling your company and you add products, services, markets, regions, stakeholders, everything else, your brain starts looking like a Rachmaninoff score. And people go, this is just too hard. I'm going back to the way life was. And they retreat. That's what brings them back through that valley of death. Okay? You need to control your communication rhythm. You need to put in these meeting structures and that discipline and focus that we keep talking about. Meeting up with your sales coach on the time at the day when you said, meeting up with your scaling up coach when you said, don't miss it. Be disciplined and focused, because it's that routine that's going to set you free. You need to control your calendar and the people around you don't control you. That's 101 in scaling. Okay, so far? Okay. So I wanted to share with you that, because without those kind of fundamentals in place, we are burning cash everywhere. So you need a great team, you need great strategy, and you need to be able to execute really, really well consistently. Deliver on the promises that you're saying to the market. You'll be happy to know my team actually added cash is king and then added and queen. So let's look into this cash decision. The fourth bit, which is what Ryan asked me to talk to you guys about, and something that I'm really it's a fascinating topic for me, because like I said, cash doesn't lie. Your cash at bank will tell you if your business model's right, if you're converting at the right speed, if you're delivering at the right speed, etc. So the question I'm going to ask you guys, and I'd like you to write this question down, is do you have consistent sources of cash to fuel your growth? And ideally, we prefer it that you're generating it internally. So let's go over to this cash runway concept. As we're scaling a company, we know that cash becomes even more critical because growth sucks cash. And the key to finding how to successfully scale your business is outside of the box thinking. And it's different ways to generate sufficient profit and cash flow internally, so you don't have to turn to the banks or our friendly sharks to fuel your growth. Now, we know that great companies by choice, if anybody's read any of Jim Collins's work, we know that great companies by choice actually kept about 10 times more cash reserves than their competitors. And I used to talk about this pre-COVID, and everybody thought I had rocks in my head. But then when COVID hit, the guys who had cash reserves up their sleeves have been able to weather the storm and turn the ship around a lot faster. We know that we're looking at, so Bill Gates, we know he used to have about 12 months worth of operating expenses in the bank. So if he launched a product and it failed, he could, he had time to breathe and think about things and get things back on track. So I'd like you guys to write this bit, because I had to reach out to a few people to confirm of what the current data is here. So when we're talking about cash runway, it's how much cash does the business have ahead of it before we even get any sales through the door. So assuming, like we did in COVID, for a couple of months, the world just stood still. Assuming we don't have any revenue coming through, and you really do have a rock solid monthly recurring revenue. So business used to be as usual and working well, and we were at break even. We were happy for you to have about 3 to 6 months worth of operating expenses. Okay. If you're up in startup phase and you are in high growth, burning cash, the venture capital guys that I've been talking to have been talking about 15 to 18 months worth of OPEX. Okay. And I know that's overly cautious, and thankfully many of the companies haven't needed it, but it provides breathing space to you if you have enough cash runway to weather the storm. So you're not going to be making shooting from the hip kind of decisions. You're just consistent in your pace. So how do we improve this efficiency of runway? And there's a few different tools that I like to use. There's quite a few that we've got when we're looking at improving the efficiency in the business and making sure that we've got enough cash there. There's one in particular that we're going to focus on now. I'm going to share with you this tool called the cash acceleration strategy, because we can come up with theories, you can come up with ideas, and you can go blah, blah, blah forever, but unless you roll up your sleeves and start talking with your team about how we're going to improve things and start implementing, nothing is going to change. Okay, so what I've done is, at that URL, you're welcome to, I've created that landing page today. You're welcome to go ahead and download that. There is no data capture at all. It's just a free tool I'd really like you guys to have. And it's all about cash acceleration strategies, and it's all about making our cash conversion cycle more efficient. And I'm going to teach you a bit more about how that works now. Everybody got that? Okay, so cash acceleration strategies. There's no data capture, it's free for you guys to access. So what is this concept of cash conversion cycle, of making our runway more efficient? And it's the KPI that a lot of the scaling up companies will use, and it measures how long it takes us from the dollar we spend getting something done right through to getting that dollar back into our pocket. And this is how it's broken down into these 4 components. So the bit when the money goes out of a business, hold on, which way you guys? No, you guys this way. So when the money goes out of the business, we start the sales process, how quickly and how efficiently we can actually convert that qualified lead into a sale, get the deal done and in the door, actually shortens our sales cycle, and hence it makes it more efficient for us. That's why sales training is so important. That's why the 3 Shark Tank guys invested in these guys, because we know as we're scaling a company, sales burns money if it's not done properly. You have to be taught. It's a skill set that you have to develop. So when we're looking at the cash conversion cycle, we're going into the sales cycle. Then we've got to get the job. So we've won the job. We're doing what we're doing. We have to deliver it efficiently, and then we have to go into the billing payment cycle. And in the bottom, for a lot of companies, especially if they're in the manufacturing bit, you know, they could have, you know, they actually have to make what they're selling as well, which burns things too. So it's not unusual for manufacturing companies to have sales cash conversion cycles that are greater than 365 days. Because they have to order the inventory, bring it in, make it, fix it. By the time somebody sells it, gets paid, add 30 days, and all the rest of it. So we really have to look at each part of this cash conversion cycle to really make sure that we're efficient in each part. I'm going to share with you the Dell example. It's an old example, but I wanted to print it out because I wanted you. Are you guys still here? Yeah. I wanted to really share this story with you because it was something that I'd read many years ago, but I think it's going to really simply explain what this cash conversion cycle is. So in 91, Michael Dell actually employed a CFO called Tom Meredith. And one of his missions was to increase liquidity because they were running out of money. When Meredith took over in 91, their cash conversion cycle was 63 days. And as you can see, he retired 21 years later, and then he got it down to minus 21 days. Now, Dell's really interesting because Dell's actually one of the few computer companies that you put your credit card into the online purchase, then they go and order from the supplier. They don't actually have stock sitting there burning up cash as they're going and then find a buyer and then deliver the stock and then get paid in 30 days. So they completely flipped over how they actually deliver in the marketplace. And that was actually quite game changing for them because they actually have their customers' money 21 days in advance before they even have to deliver anything. By the end of the day, that actually gone to minus 39 days. And yes, I've ordered a Dell computer and I'm still waiting for mine 3 weeks later, but that's just what the market expects. Okay, so that's what we refer to as a cash conversion cycle. It's how many days does it take from the minute you actually got a sale to actually getting the money into your pocket. And when you're using this tool, and I'm really imploring you guys to sit down over a cup of coffee and just work it out with your team of how you can improve your cash conversion cycle. There's really 3 components. There's the first one is eliminating mistakes. This has to be the one that hurts the most. But in invoicing, you will not believe how many people didn't put .com.au or spell somebody's name wrong, and the invoice just never received, and then there goes another 30 days. They're just silly mistakes that happen, and it burns cash, and it burns your cash runway. There's potholes in your runway all the way through, okay? So brainstorm using that tool with your team of how you can eliminate these silly repetitive mistakes. And sometimes it's just a matter of job handover. How, you know, did we get the right person's name? Oh, sorry, it wasn't meant to go to me. It was meant to go to accounts payable, etc. Figure out what the problems are and work at fixing all that up. Shortening these cycle times is where I mentioned that you really need to get good training and be world's best practice. Underline that. You can't just be good enough. You need to be great at what you do, and you need to source world's best practice tools to make you guys the best at what you do. We're in an international playing field now, and Australia is regarded as a blue chip product. It's game on as far as I'm concerned. We're a really beautiful country. And I remember, I don't know if you guys know the Foo Fighters, but I remember I went and saw the Foo Fighters a couple of years ago, and Dave Grohl actually said, oh, you guys actually have money. I'll be back again next year. Well, he said it because Australians have been working so hard, and thank goodness, you know, we've had some great economic governance, and we have what's referred to as profit pools. So other countries are going to come after your segment if you don't start getting smart about it and start defending your own products and services, and equally go overseas, because this is where the big profits are. The big profits are actually with the currency exchange that we've got at the moment. So get really, really good at what you do, improve your processes and your systems, and then I'm imploring you, if you can, go for an international play. Okay? We are regarded as a blue chip product and service in, you know, the Australian market is really revered in the world. And then the third bit is that improve your business model, which Andrew touched on again. You know, Andrew was talking about, you know, online learning, online education, etc. So, sure, there's some tacit knowledge and there's a social component that we like in face-to-face, but if you want to be excellent at what you do, you need that repeat, repeat, repeat. So, you know, consuming your training through an online platform and reinventing the business models in your industry are really, you know, game-changing moves. For me, I always find it really, really fascinating when somebody says to me, oh, you don't understand, that's just how our industry operates. Game on. That's a challenge, because that really is saying that there's some redundant business models there that need to be shaken up. Okay, so I've gone really fast through that, and I know I've only had 45 minutes with you. Oh, I've actually gone over time, haven't I? Oh no. But the crux of it is this. If you can be good in life, that's wonderful, but you really can be great. And the real value is in being disciplined and focused. And it's not in, so the real value in being disciplined and focused isn't in the recognition nor in the reward. It's in the person you are going to ultimately become by finding the courage and commitment to take action, and in doing so, live your life's true purpose. We all have 2 versions of our lives, the ones we're currently living and the ones we, you know, subconsciously we know what we're capable of. And it's up to us to have the discipline and focus, which comes with the courage and commitment to actually just get it done. So you've got all the tools around you now. You've got great world's best practice kind of access to knowledge. Game on, guys. Really game on. Go for it as far as I'm concerned, because we're here to support you in any which way you want. Ryan, I think over to you.
Amazing. Anna, firstly, thank you so much. If you've got a little bit more time as well, I mean, I've got some questions ready to go, so we can answer them. But if you had anything that you just missed there, you really want to squeeze in, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can go straight to questions.
we can go to questions if you like, and then I'm happy to, I'm happy to answer anyone's questions, actually, especially from the scaling up model, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, you reach out to me and I'll try and help you guys as much as I can.
Alrighty. So we've got a few questions coming already. I've got so Diana, who is a performance coach. She said, "Has being a woman affected your work and being taken seriously?"
No.
I love the reflex of that.
No. Just if anything, it's a competitive advantage because our emotional quotient is probably a little bit higher. Remember, I'm the only female within a quote, like in Australasia, so that includes the Southeast Asia as well. No, I think it kind of, it comes down to competence, I think, as well. You have to be very, very good at what you do. And I think women have this, we're very hard on ourselves, but know that by us being really hard on ourselves, we can actually achieve wonderful things. So, our competence and our ability to actually deliver great results is there. So no, go for it. No.
Yeah, I love it. Daniel has said, what are the internal systems you recommend for helping to implement scaling up?
Okay. So there's a Rockefeller Habits checklist that you can get. If you reach out to me, I'll email it to you guys. I'll get the team to send that to you. There's 10 parts to the checklist, and I really gave you guys the drinking from a fire hose version when I was talking about those 4 pieces: the people, strategy, execution, and cash. So the diverse team of A players, really get your strategy in place, know who your customers are and your value proposition, and then make sure when you do have the right kind of customers that you want to attract more of, that you execute flawlessly.
Yeah, nice. So can I just dissect that a bit further for a second?
Yeah.
The Rockefeller Habits, one of the habits suggests that companies should plan or should share their plan and performance and make sure that it's visible to everybody, right? Which metrics should we be sharing with the team then, and how visible? Like how transparent do we be with everybody in the company about where we're going and what we're doing right now?
Yeah, so there's critical numbers that we actually identify. So there's critical numbers as we're scaling a company. So it might be something like, this is the type of customer that we want to get more of. How many meetings are you having with one of those ideal customers? Cash at bank is always something that's really interesting as well, because especially accounts payables, accounts receivables, that's really important. But there's a lot of work that goes into actually identifying what that critical number is. But once you nail that critical number and what you want to scale, that's where the gold is. And you have to keep sharing that number with the team. And then you gamify it. We have lots of, if you achieve, say we needed to get 100 more of it, whatever customer it is at this value gross margin. If we had to get 100, it's a super green, and we get the reward and we go to wherever we're going to go on holidays or a treat. You traffic light system it, so you can go super green, green, amber, and red would be like it's business as usual. You just got 50 in, boring, you didn't move the dial. If you got 30 in, we have a bit of a treat, and you gamify it for the team. There's 2 schools of thoughts, whether you individually reward or whether you team reward. I'm a massive fan of team reward because I know scaling is a team effort. It's all in. It really is an all-in thing. So there's, but it doesn't apply to all industries, but you find what works for your team and for what works for you too.
And so is it in that respect then, Anna, is it a bit of trial and error to see what does work for you?
Oh, absolutely. And Andrew mentioned this as well. Like, you don't bet the whole house on something. We talk about, shooting bullets, not cannonballs. And you really have to test the market. Don't make big brass kind of all chips down kind of moves. Test the market. And by testing the market, you're actually improving your product as you're going. And you're finding a better market fit for what you want. So yeah, a gentle approach, but once you've honed what that product and that service looks like. Yep.
Come on, easy. Okay, I've got a question from Jade. Of the 4 pillars that you discussed, people, strategy, execution, and cash, which pillar do you see that needs the most focus within business?
It depends. I know it's not the answer you want, but it really depends on the scale cycle of the company. But we do know, and one thing I really do hold firm on is that we really do need a team of A players. I can't scale a dysfunctional team. You're just scaling chaos.
Yeah.
You need the best people around you, and you'll be able to solve a lot of problems together with a collective intelligence.
Yeah, I like that. And that's obviously that's something that Andrew kind of touched on as well, getting the right people in the right places. I think Glenn did as well. You're obviously all very consistent. That's the reason you've all been so successful. Damien, what is your take on leadership? Quite an open question, really. Take that as you will.
What do you mean, Damien?
I don't know. Damien, what do you mean? What leadership, the word? I don't know. I'll wait for him to elaborate. Hang on, what else have we got? Nicole, what is the most common mistake you've seen scale up? Anything other than lack of cash planning?
Procrastination.
Oh.
Nothing does my head in more is that people, it's an obvious thing. You've got to make that choice. You have to make that hard decision. And yet people procrastinate because they were their friend or whatever it is, or they don't want to be seen as the bad guy. If you guys have a company and you're a proprietary limited and you are the director, you have a responsibility for the company and you have to make decisions in the greater good of that company. So the bit that I see as being the biggest mistake is people procrastinate. Eventually they get there 9 months later, but guess what? You've just burnt 9 months worth of cash trying to figure out, oh, I should have done that. I wish I'd done that earlier, they say to me. It's like, yes.
Yeah,
so procrastination.
It's frustrating to see. You would have hated to work with me, Anna, a few years ago because that was me to a T. I've actually had sessions with Steve on how to overcome my procrastination and become a better decision maker because I don't know if you were on. I was saying I was one of those people that was so concerned with holding on to things and what I have got as opposed to just make a decision and back yourself and back your judgment. But make educated decisions as well.
Yeah, you have to be sensible about it. It can't just be for the sake of ego. These are sometimes pretty big decisions, but sometimes, if you ask yourself and you stay still, and I don't know how many of you guys practice mindfulness or meditation, but in the middle of your meditation or your mindfulness, if you ask yourself that question, you know what the truth is. You know what you have to do. So, yeah.
Just do it. I've got 3 or 4 more questions if I can steal a few more minutes of your time.
Yeah, go for it.
I know people are getting good value. So I've got Steve, who's actually one of our team here. How do you find the potholes in the runway with staff and processes if you might not be conscious of them?
That's
make that.
Good
one, Steve.
There's a couple of ways. I think really you have to define what your best practice is, what you think is the world's best practice or the best kind of best practice runway for your business model. And it doesn't always have to be in a similar industry. It might be a completely different industry that you're comparing yourself to, and then just set yourself a target. I mean, New South Wales is out to beat Queensland for the 3rd time, game on. And you have to do it with a team of A players. As you guys, these sporting analogies, running a business isn't very different from running a sporting team. Yeah. You get your best people in, you set what the scoreboard is, and then you all aim for that goal. But identifying that process and best practice is, it's a trial and error thing. And it's quarter on quarter or time on time where you just get better, better, faster, cheaper, that lean principle.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I've got Anna Tinsley. Do you think it is an advantage to be in a city, i.e. Melbourne or Sydney, when starting a new business due to having a greater population and there's potentially a greater choice of suitable team members to fit your culture? Or can you make it work from anywhere, regional, etc.?
I work with a lot of tech companies, and we go from Brazil all the way to London. Time zone issues is a big one. We have dispersed teams, and it's similar to what Andrew said. Again, I know I keep coming back to Andrew, but it's very much aligned. What we're saying is that don't just look for the full-time person, but look for the job that has to get done. Ask yourselves, what am I paying this person to do? And then find the best person to actually deliver for you. So, I mean, I've always had dispersed teams. We rarely had everybody all in one location. For me, especially with all my customers, with all my clients, we were very, very clear that we wanted to bring the best people to the table to solve our clients' issues. And it wasn't a matter of locality. It was about, let's find the best person for the problem that we've got and deal with it. So from a managing a team perspective, yes, it does have its issues with time zones. But, you know, this COVID has fast forward everything that we've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
Just get your best people and bring them together and just do the right thing by your clients, and everything else will work out fine.
Yeah, amazing. All right, I'm going to steal two more from you. David's just thrown one in there because you mentioned mindset, and it was also mentioned earlier by Jack. So he said, what sort of mindfulness do you do, and what is the purpose of it for you?
Oh, I need to still myself. I'm one of those curious, addicted learners. I read so much, and I travel so much. Well, I used to. I do know that I need to stay still. So I do about half an hour of silence in the morning, and I do nothing. It's really hard for me, I have to tell you, because I love reading. I'm curious. I'm always searching on the net. I'm just fascinated what the world is up to. So what I do that. There's also, I think, this might sound funny, but there's an Audible you can download called Honor Yourself. And I think it's by P. Diddy. I don't know what he calls himself now, but that one's used to help you get to sleep. And that one's actually really interesting from mindfulness perspective too. But look,
so
anything you do is good.
Do you literally just sit there in silence then? You just stop?
Yes.
And then what are you thinking about? What's going through your mind?
Wherever my mind wants to take me.
You just let it go.
So last week I was in Canberra. I'll give you a classic example. Last week I was in Canberra, and I stay at this hotel called the Little National, which is a tiny hotel, but it has to be one of my favorite hotels in the world, actually. And the bed is actually, the width of the room is actually the width of the bed, is the length of the bed. And the bed is actually fitted into the window. So as you're sleeping, you're actually sleeping, and the side of your bed is a whole glass, a pane of glass. And I was sitting there for my half an hour of just silence. And usually you'd be on your phone, or, you're reading or watching the news or whatever you're doing. And I sat there in silence. And past my window went a flock of geese. And in a V formation, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there was a flock of geese, and they went straight. I don't know if they were geese. It was just in a V formation. And my instinct was to turn to the phone and take a photo. But because I had promised myself I'd be quiet, I just sat and watched this beautiful flock just glide past. And it reminded me, I actually wrote a newsletter to all my CEOs, and I said to them, if I hadn't sat still, I would have missed it, or I would have been watching the TV, or I would have been distracted with other noise. But watching that flock reminded me that so many of my CEOs, when COVID hit, have been working so incredibly hard to keep their people in a job. I don't know if you guys know, but with the flock of geese, the lead bird is actually the one who's flapping the hardest, because they're creating the uplift for the flock, for the birds behind them. And they're making the journey a little bit easier for the guys behind them, but they're going like crazy at the front. But then they take turns. The front bird, the lead bird, will actually go back to the back of one of the V's, and then somebody else will take a turn and help out. And then create the uplift, and then the bird who's been going like crazy at the front actually has a little bit of a rest. So I reached out to all my CEOs, and even to the guys in the senior leadership team, to say, be mindful of the pressure and the stress and the what if scenarios we've been going on to, because our lead birds have been working so hard that sometimes it might be just a nice thing to say, hey, I'm here for you as a senior leadership team. Hey, I'm here for you. I've got your back. Is there anything I can do to help you? Just to give them a bit of a breath a breath of fresh air and a bit of a rest. So, sorry, when I saw it, I just went, I would have missed that completely if I wasn't still.
No, I think that's a beautiful answer, and I'm purposely not going to go to any other questions because I think that's a great way to finish your whole little segment. And firstly, thank you again so much for everything that you're doing for us and the advice and just willingness to just jump on here. Like, you didn't even bat an eyelid. You were like, yeah, I'll be there. When is it? And what do you want me to talk about? And you just did it. Beautiful analogy. I think for a lot of us out there, if you're an owner of a business and you're by yourself and you don't have a business partner and you're the one kind of flapping away, it's sometimes nice to know that other people get it as well. So I think that's what a lot of people will take from that. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your day?
I think be true to yourself, be kind to yourself as well, and know out of your kindness you'll generate good things. Look after your key customers, and please, like, this is, I know it sounds tacky and corny, whatever, but you guys absolutely optimizing your sales processes and getting good training and coaching around that helps your cash runway significantly. Okay, if you can move the dial from your conversion ratio from whatever percent, even up by 1 or 2%, we're talking game-changing moves, and it's just money that hits your bottom line. It goes straight to the bottom. So reach out to me. As you heard, I'm really passionate about helping Australian companies. Just call me if you need me. I don't just get on the phone or reach out to me by email. I've also got my my newsletter. Add me on LinkedIn, wherever you want, and I'll share out my weekly thing. But if you need help, please reach out, and we're here to help you. All of us are here, and you know, like Glen does too, we pitch in and we help where we can.
Yeah.
So good luck, everyone. Congratulations again, Ryan.
Thank you, Anna. I really appreciate it. Guys, please put your hands together for Anna Samios.